Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. What if I told you that behind all the laughs and big comedy moments from Will Ferrell, there's a side of him that's filled with deep personal struggles? The man we all know for his funny roles in movies like Anchorman and Elf has faced some really hard moments in life, moments that you might not know about. Sounds surprising, right? But that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. That we all love Will Ferrell for his jokes, his over-the-top characters, and his ability to make us laugh until our stomachs hurt. But if we look a little deeper, we'll see that he's had to deal with some real-life struggles that have shaped him into the person he is now. So stick with me as we dive into the lesser-known side of Will Ferrell's life. And trust me, it's not all fun and games. Will Ferrell didn't just wake up one day and become a comedy legend. His journey was full of ups and downs, and at times, it felt like the world was telling him no. Growing up in California, he lived a pretty normal childhood. But things weren't as easy as they seemed once he started chasing his dream of becoming a comedian. Like many other performers, Will faced rejection after rejection. Imagine working hard, pouring your heart into something, and constantly hearing no over and over again. It's tough. And that's exactly what he went through in the early days of his career. Will often talks about the tough times he went through before he made it big. He went to the University of Southern California, USC, where he began studying sports journalism. But his passion for comedy was always there, and that's when he decided to change paths and pursue a career in comedy. He didn't know it yet, but his breakthrough moment would come a few years later. For a while, it looked like Will might never make it. But despite all the setbacks, he didn't give up. He kept pushing, and eventually, his big break came when he joined Saturday Night Live in the early 90s. This was a game changer for Will. He finally started to get recognized for his comedic talent. But even then, things weren't as easy as they seemed. The pressure to always be funny, to always be the life of the party, it was overwhelming. Behind the laughter, Will was often struggling with self-doubt. He wasn't the only one who dealt with the immense pressure of being a comedian. But for him, it was particularly hard because he didn't feel like he could just be himself. He had to be the character that everyone else saw. The expectations placed on him were not just about his career, but about his identity as well. Imagine living your life constantly trying to meet everyone else's expectations while having no space to meet your own needs. Will often found solace in his family. He was very close to his father, Roy Ferrell. The love and respect he had for his father were apparent, and Roy played a big role in helping Will navigate the early years of his career. Roy was a great influence on Will, providing him with the guidance and encouragement that helped him keep going. But life wasn't always easy for Will, and his father's sudden death in 2001 was a massive blow. Will lost his dad unexpectedly to a heart attack, and the impact it had on him was profound. Will's father was not just a parent to him. He was also a mentor and a source of inspiration. After his father's passing, Will faced a deep emotional struggle. He was left with the grief of losing someone who had been such a significant part of his life. He had to learn how to cope with the loss while still maintaining his career and performing in front of a public audience. Imagine losing someone close to you and still having to show up every day like everything is okay. It's incredibly difficult. And for Will, it wasn't just about grieving privately. He had to keep the public persona of the funny guy intact, even when he was struggling inside. The pain from losing his father wasn't something that could be easily fixed, and Will didn't have the luxury of shutting down and taking time off from his career. He had responsibilities, and as his career continued to grow, the pressure only increased. It's easy to think of Will Ferrell as this carefree, larger-than-life comedic force. But the truth is, even someone as successful as him has faced the kind of challenges that might surprise you. Losing his father wasn't the only personal tragedy Will faced, but it was certainly one of the most significant moments in his life. It forced him to confront emotions and struggles that he had never dealt with before. Around the same time, Will's career was soaring. He was starring in hit films like Old School and Elf, and everyone wanted a piece of him. He was on top of the world professionally, but personally, he was still grappling with the weight of his father's death. The pressure to always be on, always the funny guy, always the life of the party, was something that Will found increasingly difficult to deal with. In fact, the more he succeeded in his career, the harder it became for him to find peace. In his personal life, Have you ever felt like the weight of expectations was too much to handle? It can feel suffocating, and for Will, it often did. It's easy to look at someone like Will Ferrell and assume that because he's so funny on screen, his life must always be full of joy. But the reality is, the laughter was often a way for him to cope with the pain. He had to figure out how to balance his public persona as the funny guy with the private reality of dealing with loss. Will had to face the fact that no amount of success could take away the emotional pain he was feeling. He couldn't escape the fact that he was grieving, that he was still healing from the loss of his father. The most important lesson here is that Will Ferrell, just like all of us, had to go through a period of healing. He had to learn how to live with the pain and still move forward. And this healing didn't come from anything external, it came from within. It wasn't about the fame, the money, or the success. It was about finding balance in his personal life and giving himself the space to process the loss. But there was still more for Will to learn. Even with his newfound success, he struggled to find a healthy balance between his career and personal life. He couldn't keep up with the expectations placed on him forever. And just when it seemed like Will's career was taking off, life threw him a huge curveball. In 2001, he lost his father, Roy Ferrell, to an unexpected heart attack. This was a turning point in Will's life. He has shared in interviews that his father's death profoundly impacted him. He had to cope with the grief while maintaining his comedic persona in front of the public. Imagine trying to smile through pain. It's not easy, and for Will, it was something he had to learn to do. Will has since spoken openly about the challenges of balancing grief with work and how it taught him valuable lessons about the importance of self-care and giving yourself time to heal. As his career continued to grow, so did the pressure. Being a successful actor and comedian comes with its own set of expectations. People began to expect Will to always be on, always the funny guy, the larger-than-life personality. The toll this took on him, mentally and emotionally, is something many don't see. He's admitted in interviews that the pressure to maintain this image sometimes led to moments of self-doubt and isolation. And with that came a feeling of not being able to truly relax or be himself. He often felt like he was living up to everyone else's expectations, not his own. But here's where things take a turn for the better. After years of pushing through personal and professional hardships, Will began to make peace with who he was. He found solace in his family life, especially with his wife and children. It was through them that he began to heal. In recent years, he's spoken about the importance of finding a balance between work and personal life. He's also learned to let go of the idea that he has to constantly be the funny guy. Instead, he focuses on being present for his family and allowing himself to have moments of vulnerability. In fact, one of the most significant steps Will took in his healing journey was accepting that he doesn't have to be everything to everyone. He doesn't have to be the funny guy, the movie star, or the constant entertainer. He's allowed himself to take a step back from the pressures of Hollywood and focus on what truly matters: his well-being and the well-being of his loved ones. Will Ferrell's journey shows us that no matter how successful someone may seem on the outside, they're still human. They still have to face their own struggles and find their own path to healing. His story is a reminder that we all go through tough times and that healing takes time. But with the right support, and by allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we can find our way through it. The next time you see Will Ferrell on the big screen, remember that there's more to him than meets the eye. Behind every laugh, every silly character, there's a person who has faced the darkest of days and found a way to keep going. His story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a reminder that even when life seems tough, there's always a way through it.